on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Renaissance Fishing. I'm your host, Cody Jackson, and today we're going to be going over the Humble Haywire Twist. This is a really good tooth-proof leader that is going to help you target things like kingfish, barracuda, mackerel, and sharks. Like I said before, this leader is inferior to coated cable in that the entire frontal surface of a shark, because this is mostly a shark fishing page, the entire surface of a shark's nose is covered in these things called ampullae of Lorenzini. Google it. And they are really good at detecting small pieces of metal attached to fish. Obviously, that's not the only thing they're used for, but they're very good at doing that. So if you have an uncoated piece of metal sticking out of your bait, you're going to see a significantly less number of bites. And if you don't catch fish after watching this video, that's going to be on you. Run cable, not wire for sharks. But this is extraordinarily handy if you go offshore and you're going to be freelining baits off of a boat for kingfish, wahoo, barracuda, critters of that nature. Wire is hard to beat, and you don't need tools. You don't need a crimper. You don't need anything fancy. It is easier to do it with a pair of pliers, but I have a personal issue with keeping pliers in my pockets. I just don't like it. I think it's a matter of pride, and I'm not going to fix it anytime soon. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this by hand, and I'm going to show you a few of the ways to do it incorrectly, as well as the way to do it correctly with hopefully digestible step-by-step information. So I'm going to pull this camera in, and I'm going to show you guys how it's done. Alright guys, now that I have y'all zoomed in, I'm going to show you what a correctly tied haywire twist looks like before we get into a few of the bad examples that I have over here. So the first thing you're going to notice is that this knot is pretty much straight. It is in line with itself. You want a really nice straight connection from your swivel to your hook. You don't want this to have any bend or snakiness in it, and I'll show you an example of that here in a minute. The next thing you're going to notice is that the haywire twist itself is comprised of twists where the main line and the tag end twist around each other instead of taking your tag end and wrapping it around your main line. I'll show you why that's a bad idea here in a minute, but just keep in mind that these need to be twisted together, not one around the other. So you're going to get this nice helical shape to it, and that is what you are looking for. Finishing off the knot with two other things, what you're going to see is barrel twists here on the back end. These barrel twists do not add a lot of structural integrity to the haywire twist itself. Really, these are just in place to keep the twists from coming apart. So you're not getting a lot of strength from these. In an ideal situation, you're looking for about 5 to 10 wraps in your haywire twist itself, and then the same thing, about 5 to 10 barrel wraps. It's important to note whenever you're using heavier wire, really I'd say anything above, I think the lowest rating is like 128 pound for the pretty heavy stuff. I'd go on the side of caution and do an extra couple of these twists and an extra couple of barrel wraps just to be safe. Like I said, wire is really cheap, so you're really not losing a lot by having a slightly longer knot here, and it is going to give you a lot more confidence to chase bigger fish. Now also notice that the end of this knot is nice and smooth. There's no snag, there's no tag end that's hanging off the end of this that's nice and sharp. So you can rub this over your finger and you're not going to cut yourself on this. It's really important to break your tag end off instead of trying to cut it off with a pair of pliers, or in my case, a pair of crimpers. You're going to get a lot more success like this with not cutting your hands open, not hurting the fish that you're trying to catch, and so on and so forth. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and start diving into some of the other knots that you don't want to tie, incorrect ways to do that. Alright guys, so the first most common mistake you'll see whenever people try to tie a haywire twist is that they will tie something that looks like a haywire twist but is in fact not a haywire twist. So in this example, you have got the tag line wrapped around the main line instead of them being twisted together. Like I said before, this right here is supposed to be the strong part of the knot, and the barrel wraps are really intended to keep your main twists in line with each other and keep them from slipping. So if you load this particular knot up in this configuration on a very large fish, What you're going to see is this is going to cinch down on itself, and it's going to tighten up around this swivel. And because these are not the strong part of the knot, and the allegedly strong part has already failed you, you are going to end up with a lot more heartbreak than happiness, and that's not good. So make sure whenever you tie a haywire twist that you're not wrapping the tag end around your main line. You're twisting them together to get that good, strong, tight knot. All right, so the next most common mistake you're likely to see out there is that people will forego the entire haywire twist in lieu of just barrel wraps. Now, because we've been watching this video for a few minutes, we know that the barrel wraps are not the strongest part of the knot to begin with, so betting your bacon on the weakest part of the knot is probably not a good choice. I'm sure there's some number of barrel wraps that can hold a leader up to its rated tensile strength, but that falls under the category of if you don't know how to tie a knot, tie a lot. And that's not the kind of fisherman we want to be. So we want to make sure that when we do a haywire twist, that there's actually a haywire twist in our haywire twist. Because if you're not haywire twisting, what are you doing? Now, another common mistake that you might see out there is that once you understand that you need to twist your tag end and your main line together, and you start to do that, you may get some really inconsistent wraps, and it's going to come out all squiggly and snaky like this, and that is significantly less than optimal. So if you can imagine, whenever you load this up on a big fish and it's under tension, you're going to have points that are under a lot more stress on the inside of this curve right here and right here, where one part of the wire, be it your tag end or your main line, is going to be under more force than the part of the knot that's on the outside of that curvature. What that's going to do is it's going to create stress points inside of your leader, and those words should get your blood pressure up because that is not good. So make sure when you're tying your haywire twist that you're getting nice, clean, consistent twists with the two pieces of wire going around each other. If you start to notice that it's getting squirrely on you, cut it off, try again. Like I've said for the millionth time in this video, wire is cheap, and it's not worth 5 cents of wire to lose a big fish on something silly like this. Okay, the last bad example that we're going to go over here is this right here. So once you get your main twists down and you've got good barrel wraps, the last thing you want to do is ruin a perfectly good knot with a bad tag end. So this is very sharp, it's very cutty. If you go to grab a shark by the leader and pull it in, and you grab this and your hand slides over it, it can cut the devil out of you, and you can say some pretty colorful language that you were not expecting to say. And that is not cool. Certainly shocking for anyone who does not realize what just happened. So make sure that you don't do that. And another side effect of this is whenever you do hook up to a nice fish, it's very easy for this to go from, say, a fish's mouth back over its body and end up somewhere on its skin, scratching it up, which is bad. But also it can end up somewhere near its eye. And you do not want to blind a fish with a crappy tag end like this. Obviously, bad sportsmanship applies here. You don't want to blind a fish at all, but more especially when you intend to release after the fact. Releasing half-blinded fish because you don't know how to tie a knot is not very cool of you, man, so don't do that. I'm going to show you how to do this correctly, how to get rid of this tag end whenever you've still got a nice long piece. When it's cut off like this, there's really not much you can do with it aside from cut it right here, salvage your swivel, and tie it again correctly. All right, so as promised, I'm going to show you guys how to tie this haywire twist without tools first, and then I'll show you how to use the crimps here in a second. You'll notice I'm using crimps rather than pliers for this. The pliers that I've got weird grooves, and ideally with a pair of pliers, you're going to get grooves that are perpendicular to the handle here, so it's a lot easier to get a hold of. Crimps will always have, if I can get it to focus, good enough. Anyway, they'll have little notches right here, so it's really easy to get a hold of it. And as much as I hate to admit it, you will get a slightly more consistent haywire twist if you use pliers, at the expense of having one more piece of something in your pockets, which I find really annoying. So, to tie this the cool way, can you guess the first step? Probably correct. You're going to slip the wire through your swivel. Good job. The first thing you want to do is get a good length of tag end, and you can be like, oh, well, I don't know if it needs to be this long or, this long. What I like to do is I'll take the tip of my index finger and I'll put it against the swivel, and I'll line the end of my wire up with my knuckle right there. So once you've got that length, give it a little bend. And one thing that is pretty important to note is that once this wire is bent, there is nothing you can do about it. You can't straighten it back out without compromising the strength of the wire. So if you get a length and you're like, oh, that looks whatever, throw it away. There's nothing you can do about it, because if you try to bend it back and straighten it out, you are going to make a kink and compromise the integrity of your wire. So wherever that kink ends up is going to be a weak spot, and having weak spots in your leaders is probably not the best idea. The next step we're going to do is we are going to pinch the tag end so it is close to in line with the main line. You don't want these guys to be perfectly straight with each other, because we are about to start twisting these. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to make sort of like a Jesus fish here, and you are going to start your twists. Now, to keep a handle on it, you're going to grab your swivel under the bottom. You're going to rest that swivel on your index and middle fingers, like such as, and you are going to put your thumb over it and just get a good grip on it. So this is putting the wire in a bind like this, so whenever you start your twists, it is going to be a little bit more agreeable. Now, if the tag end of your wire is sitting on the top of your swivel, you are going to want to twist this way. So the tag end is going under the main line, right? That's going to give you really good control over your knot, and you're just going to start twisting. Now, your initial twist is going to decide the twist rate of the rest of them, so make sure you get good angles right off the bat. You can bend it out, but if you bend it out, you don't want to bend it back in. Like I said, anytime you bend a wire twice, if that second one is not where you want it to be, throw it away, restart. Wire is cheap. So now that we've got the first one started, we're just going to start our twists, and we're going to maintain that angle. The angle I'm talking about is this angle right in here. So I'd call that a little less than 90 degrees perhaps. So you're going to want to keep this really consistent as you're making your twist. Otherwise, it's going to end up with that snaky, weird shape that I showed you earlier. So we're going to twist and twist and twist and twist and twist. And as you're finishing, you're going to take your main line here, and you are going to straighten it out to be in line with your swivel. That is going to set you up for your barrel wraps, and that's really important for the next step, which is the barrel wraps. So to start these guys off, you are going to want to get your tag end perpendicular to your main line. So it's going to look something like this when it's ready to start. And all you're going to do, again, you're going to get your wire in a bind in your fingers, and you're just going to start twisting in the same direction, and you are going to twist a bunch of times, trying to get nice, consistent wraps. If you are wrapping this and the barrel that you're working on goes on top of one of the barrels that you've already made, it's not really the end of the world, because like I said, the barrel wraps are just intended to keep your main twist from sliding. If it's going to bother you and it's going to be ugly and your friends are going to make fun of you, throw it away, retie. It's not the end of the world. If you're headstrong, keep on time. It's really not going to do a lot to affect the integrity of the knot. Just throw an extra couple of twists on the end and you should be a-okay. So we're going to give this a handful more barrel twists. And like I said before, you will get a feel for this eventually, and this will be like tying your shoes after a while. So you can see, because I was talking to a camera, I've got a little bit of a whoopty right there, a little bit of a swiggle, if you will. That's not really the end of the world. You just don't want big major bends in your haywire twist. So to finish this guy off, instead of taking our pliers and cutting it off, we are going to break this tag end off. So all you're going to do is you're going to grab it again, and you are going to push the tag end towards the end of your leader, and then you're going to push it back in the opposite direction. And then you're going to do that again and again, and it'll just pop right off. That is the beautiful thing about wire is, like I said before, you do not need tools. The tools make the job itself a little bit easier at the expense of having to carry extra tools. So that's how it's done without a pair of pliers, and now I'm going to show you how to do it with pliers. All right, guys, now I'm going to show you the coward's way out, which is to use a tool. Like I said, tool of your discretion. You want to use a pair of crimpers, channel locks, needle nose pliers work really good. Use a vise, use your teeth, I don't care. Actually, don't use your teeth. Bad idea. Don't do that. It's going to start off the exact same way as before when you were tying by hand. All you're going to do is you're going to slip your wire through your swivel. You're going to get a good length, unless you've got really short stubby fingers, and you are going to make a bend right there. You're going to pinch that nice and tight. And now the easy part is all you got to do is line your wire up somewhere inside the teeth so it's not wiggling around a lot. See, I can shake that. It's not going to slip inside the jaws. One thing I do like to do is I'll take my index finger and I will press this against the jaws, get it nice and snugged up. That way you get a nice, easy to manage package. This thing isn't going to push through the jaws. You're going to get a little bit more consistency and stability that way. We're going to start off the exact same way, and we are going to go with some description of a twist. And we're going to twist and twist and twist to our heart's content until the cows come home. Or until I get tired of making YouTube videos, which probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. And like before, whenever you go to finish your twist, you are going to twist until your main line is in line with your swivel. So taking it out of the pliers for a sec, you can see that's pretty consistent. There's a little bit of a discrepancy right there because I've been filming for like 3 hours trying to get this video to not sound silly. But that's YouTube. Nothing I can do about that now. I'm committed. So we are going to take the tag line. We're going to get it just like before, roughly perpendicular to your main line. And we're going to start our barrel wraps. And we're going to get these nice and consistent and snug. Very friendly, very mindful, very demure. I need to watch less TikTok, so on and so forth, until eventually you have most of a completed haywire twist. Doesn't look too ugly, I suppose. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the tag line, same as before, bend it back, bend it forward, bend it back, bend it forward, and after a couple of times it is going to liberate itself from the rest of the knot. You've got a nice tag in to throw away instead of dropping on your carpet and stepping on it 2 days later. Not that I've ever done that, but whatever. So there's how you tie it with a tool and without a tool. All right, guys, that is going to conclude our how to and how to not to tie the haywire twist. If you liked what you saw in the video, think you learned something, think I said something funny, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or don't. I'm not your mom, I'm not your boss, I can't tell you what to do, but make one fisherman very happy. So thanks for that. Be sure to stay tuned next time for the next video that I have coming out. I've got a lot of knots, rigs, tips, helpful jargon, stuff that you guys might want to know. So stay tuned, and until next time, thank y'all, tight lines and fair winds. See you next time.